How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Chaos Head Noah. We are on our way to buy a D-sword. What is a D-sword? How should I know? I obviously do know, but we have not found out what this whole D-sword nonsense is, but we have come across one and maybe another, and we're supposed to be finding one for ourselves, supposedly for protection, who knows. As, a very interesting character decided to just pop up in the last episode, and pop up is the term I will use quite literally, because she really did come out of nowhere, and she is now established in this world with the characters that we've met. Not really sure what's going on there. I think her name's Rimi, R-I-M-I, Sakihata, I believe. I think I listed that or labeled the previous episode or titled the previous episode as her name, so I should know, but I am really good at forgetting things. So let us continue on in trying to protect ourselves instead of trying to figure out what the hell is going on, because that's more important. The store was somewhere near Cat Street, it looks like. Cat Street was a twisty street that ran alongside Meiji Street, the main connection between Shibuya and Harajuku. I had heard once that it was originally a river that got filled in. There were a lot of theories as to why it was called Cat Street. Some said it was because there were a lot of strays there, and others said it was because the street was as narrow as a cat's forehead. A common expression in Japanese. Not that I cared either way. Cat Street was a good distance from here. It would take at least 15 to 20 minutes to get there. A bike would get me there faster, of course, but I didn't have one. I didn't want to go near the station, so I opted to go through Shoto and cut across Miyashita Park. I walked a little fast across the bridge over Meiji Street. I was finally here. I was in such a hurry that I was starting to get frustrated at how long it was taking. Cat Street was, compared to Center Street, much quieter, and felt more like Harajuku than Shibuya. I thought I actually saw a cat here in this background, but I was mistaken. No cat to be found. All the stores were selling what the fuck clothes? Okay, hold on. What is that? Osare? Japanese net slang meaning hip or fashionable. We could have literally just said that, but the kind I'd never had any interest in. Dai sheeple. Of course, I could tell I was out of place as I walked down the street, and I got more and more upset. This was totally outside my usual territory. There were a lot more couples than there were in Center Street. I could tell they were all window shopping, lol, trying to show off because they didn't actually have any money, losers. I almost regretted coming, but I choked those feelings down and told myself that I needed to get the sword. I walked as fast as I could, face glued to the map, trying to avoid making eye contact with the people around me as I headed to my destination. I'm gonna be real with you guys, I think this whole trip is a waste of time, but I guess there's only one way for our main character here to find that out. Town Vanguard was down a narrow side street off Cat Street. One step down a side street and the whole place felt very different. The alley was narrow, cramped, and dirty, much too small for a car to travel down. The buildings were all old traditional wooden houses or empty stores with their shutters pulled down, and all the shutters had graffiti sprayed on them too. You see, even if Cat Street looked fancy with its luxury brand storefronts, that was all just fake. This dingy alley was the real Cat Street. Behind the facade, it was nothing but garbage and run-down old buildings. Of course, I didn't like the backside any more than the facade. I wasn't any more at home here than on the main street. I only had one home, ESO, of course. Town Vanguard turned out to be a smaller and gloomier shop than I'd expected. I could tell why the blogger who'd mentioned it had called it underground. There was a sign reading open, but it certainly didn't seem busy. Going inside felt really hard. I was too much of a wimp to go into a fast food place all by myself. How could I go into such a creepy looking place? I wanted to go home. Our home of ESO, of course. No, I needed the sword. What was I supposed to do? I went back and forth outside the shop for a while. There was absolutely no one else in the dark alley. I spent 30 minutes wandering around. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Come on. Trying to muster up the courage to go in, and not a single soul came by. Many times I almost felt brave enough to go in, only to give up at the last second. But I couldn't give up and go home empty-handed. This was the only place I could get a D-sword. But my instincts weren't willing to let me go inside. I had a delusion where the shopkeeper came out to meet me. Of course, she was a cute maid and she spoke to me in an anime voice. She knew exactly what I wanted and offered me a D-sword with a friendly smile. "Please take this sword, master." I could be such a horn dog sometimes. You don't say. You really don't say, buddy. Everything would be so much easier if that happened, I told myself, and maybe my wish was heard by someone because a 3D girl did come out of the shop. Her outfit wasn't anything like I'd expected, though, excuse me. It was some kind of ethnic clothing. It looked really flashy, but the girl herself seemed really gloomy. She had long hair done up in an afro, tied up in a bandana with a strange eerie design on it. She'd said that she'd gotten sick of watching me wander around outside her store, and so came out to check on me. My delusion hadn't become reality. Well, of course, that could never happen. Before I knew it, she dragged me inside the store despite my reluctance. I hadn't even had time to say no. Whoa. Wow, we are really in a cryptic area, aren't we? I'd ended up inside. I'd overcome the first hurdle, at least. Man, I'd be down for that fucking suit of armor. Everything seems to be on sale on the right side of the store. But what if this store was actually owned by the demon girl and the whole D-sword thing was a plot to lure me here? I could be killed at any minute. I looked around the dimly lit shop. There were no other customers. The air was stale and there was a thin haze. It smelled like a mix of cigarette smoke and mold. 5 minutes here and I'll probably be ready to throw up. I could see what looked like merchandise, but I couldn't tell if it was for sale or not, excuse me. It was all placed randomly throughout the store, and to tell the truth, it might have all been garbage. It certainly didn't have price tags on it, and I realized after I got inside that there were a lot of adult porno toys too. There were things you saw a lot in rape-style H-games, and I tried not to look at them. And this place must have been some kind of adult knick-knack shop. Despite how eager she was to get me inside, once I was past the door, the woman quickly ignored me. She sat down on her stool next to the register and smoked a cigarette. So this haze was at least partly her fault then. I hadn't even been inside for a whole minute, but a combination of nervousness and embarrassment, as well as how sick I was feeling, was making me sweat hard. I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. Time to find the D-sword and fast. I walked toward the back, looking at the shelves as I went. I quickly found the fantasy weapons corner that the blog I'd read had talked about. This one part of the store stood out from the rest. There were several toys lined up carefully in a display. The toys themselves all looked cheap. Actually, I realized they were mostly just different colored lightsabers. Some of them were so cheaply made that they were obviously fakes. I wasn't sure if they would even light up. The light-up shurikens that the blog had talked about were sold out, it seemed. And that was kind of a surprise. But there was one thing mixed in with the lightsabers that was very clearly different from the others. Just one look at it and I recognized it as a D-sword. It was just like the one I'd seen online. I picked it up. It was lighter than I'd expected. What was it made out of? Soft plastic? There was no blade, the edge was smooth. I ran my finger across it and of course it didn't hurt at all. Compared to the ones that Senna and Fess had, it didn't have any weight or a complex design and certainly wasn't sharp. Maybe it was a fake. Yeah, I was a little worried, but this was the only thing in the shop that could possibly be a D-sword. Did this even light up? The one Fess had been swinging around at the concert had some kind of glass embedded in the blade, which had lit up with a pale light. It was really cool. But there was no glass on the one I was holding. Maybe I should just give up on buying it. This D-sword was such a piece of junk that I was ready to give up. even after coming all the way here. But find the sword and salvation awaits. Yeah, not buy it from a shitty-ass store. I remembered Fess's words. Salvation can't be bought with money, you know? Right. If I didn't buy it here, I wouldn't have any clue as to where to get another one. Maybe it just looked cheap, and when it recognized its rightful owner, it would suddenly transform into something with incredible power. Maybe I'd just seen too much anime and manga. But Senna and Fess both had D-swords that seemed to possess a strange strength. Maybe this sword would turn out to be the same. What should I do? As I stood there uncertain, the clerk came up behind me. She grinned a gloomy smile and pointed at the D-sword. 10,000 yen, and I'll throw in a little bonus, she whispered. I was so stunned at how cheap it was that I couldn't believe my ears. What, a little under $100? I honestly would just say fuck that. I don't want this. But then again, I'm like 99% sure that this is bullshit, this whole thing here. I had some decent savings built up from my RMT business. 10,000 yen was cheap enough that all I'd have to do was pass on buying a single figure. When I heard the price, and also that it was the last one the store had, I bought it immediately. The bonus was a cheap bangle bracelet, total garbage. Probably something that they just wanted out of the store. That's usually how it is with those types of stores. The true nightmare began once I bought the sword. Town Vanguard didn't ship. You had to walk home with anything you bought. Even if it was a toy, the idea of carrying this huge sword across the middle of Shibuya was enough to quench any excitement I felt. I'd already paid though, and the clerk steadfastly refused to return my money. I wonder how that conversation went. This was going to be incredibly humiliating. I had to walk down some of the most fashionable streets in Tokyo holding a giant toy sword. Of course, the Dokyun couples and well-dressed ladies all chuckled at me as they walked by. Damn it, I wish they'd all die. I headed home, delusions filling my mind of me swinging the sword wildly and murdering everyone in the street. Well, whatever makes us happy. You know, a huge thing that helps out in life is getting rid of shame. Do whatever makes you happy. Say whatever makes you happy. For the most part. I was finally home. I'd started running once I'd gotten close, and I was out of breath by the time I got up to the base. The cold gazes of the people I'd passed had really stung. I don't know how Senna had managed to endure this humiliation. It was something I could respect in a way. There is no way I could do it. Suddenly, I heard a sound from the other side of the base. Was someone here? I froze and gasped. I remembered the smile I'd seen on the face of the demon girl who called herself Rimi. Maybe she'd come back. This time, maybe she'd come to kill me. What should I do? Run? I could sense the presence of someone in front of me. The setting sun cast someone's shadow on the ground. It was clearly the silhouette of a woman. I quickly raised my D-sword. Holding it in my hands like this, I realized what a piece of crap it really was. The one Senna had held had a strange power and intensity about it. But mine didn't seem to have anything like that. Maybe it was a fake after all. Yeah? Could I really fight with this thing? Not a chance. Even if it was real, I still couldn't actually fight someone with it. Holding it in my hands, it felt weirdly heavy. Maybe I was holding it wrong. It didn't feel like something I could actually swing like a weapon. The shadows suddenly began to move. It was coming closer. Well, which woman is it? I closed my eyes, thrusting the sword out in front of me at a random angle. Not that I expected to hurt anybody with it. But I had a faint hope that this sword could maybe, just maybe, help me. But then nothing happened. My foe didn't say a word. Maybe the D-sword had annihilated the demon girl with a single swing. If so, that would be incredible.
鬼、その剣何?
Oh, there we go. I opened my eyes, but instead of the demon girl, I saw Nanami. She was looking at me with contempt in her eyes. The tension drained from my body. I collapsed where I stood.
お前、脅かすなよ。
This was just awful. She was an awful sister. What kind of awful sister likes to entertain herself by scaring her brother? Who the hell thought or who the hell did she think she was anyway? This was why 3D girls would always be inferior to 2D ones.
別に脅かしてないよ。いつもみたいにお兄の生存確認しに来てあげたんじゃん。なのにお兄いないんだもん。なんでナナが30分もお兄のこと心配しながら待ってなくちゃいけないわけ？ナナの貴重な時間が無駄に消えてっちゃったじゃん。お兄のバカ。
Yeah, we kind of wasted 30 minutes walking back and forth. Worry? She was worried about me. I refused to be fooled by such an obvious lie.
で、どこ行ってたの？出かけるなんて珍しいじゃん。携帯にかけても繋がんないし。
I'd left the phone in the base. I knew nobody would call me, so there was no point in taking it.
そもそも、その剣何なの？もしかして買ってきたの？
She was staring at the sword, looking a little confused.
あ、わかった。アニメのおもちゃかなんかでしょ？ほんと、お兄ってオタクさんだね。しかもこのおもちゃ、ちっとも似合ってないよ。さっきだってへっぴり腰で構えちゃってて、思い出したら笑えてきた。
Thanks. I ignored Nanami and opened the padlock on my room, then tried to head inside.
ちょっと無視すんな。
帰れ。
You know I'm alive. Now go home. She was always making fun of me and did nothing but complain every time she came here. If she really hated it that much, then she should just leave. I certainly didn't want her here.
あのね、わざわざ様子見に来てあげてんだから、もっとありがたがってよ。せっかくお土産まで持ってきたのに。
She pouted at me.
お土産？
そう、お母さんが持ってけって。ほら。
She handed me some mandarin oranges, 10 or so, and a red net bag. It wasn't a great present. I'd eat mandarins if there were any laying around, but they weren't exactly a favorite of mine.
というわけで、ナナもちょっと一服したいから一緒に食べてあげる。
帰れ。
もう、妹がお土産持ってきて、しかも一緒に食べてあげるって言ってるんだよ。もっと喜びなよ。
What was there to be happy about? Why would I want to eat oranges with my little sister anyway? She probably just wanted to eat some herself. She always was a big eater. She used to always eat my food too. We got in fights about it all the time. Nanami went inside the base, ignoring my protests. I had no choice but to follow.
お茶ある？あったかいのがいいな。
Of course not. I only drink soda. Nanami sat down on the sofa and took out an orange. I sighed and set the D sword up against my computer desk. I didn't need the bangle, so I tossed it off into a corner.
あれ？それ何？
Nanami quickly picked it up off the floor.
へえ、かわいいバングルじゃん。これも買ってきたの？お兄にしてはいいセンス。
Cute? How? It was a cheap thing, probably not worth more than 500 yen. Nanami just had terrible taste. I ignored her and took a seat at my desk, grabbing an orange as I did so.
ねえねえ、なんでこれ捨てちゃうの？
だっていらないし。
じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。
はあ？
いいじゃん、どうせ捨てるならさ。たまにはお兄ちゃんらしく妹にプレゼントの一つでもしてよ。
It's not a present, it's just some junk you want.
勝手に持ってけば。
ほんと？やったー。
What the fuck? She was certainly easy to please. As soon as I gave the okay, she quickly put the bangle on her arm. Such a cheap little sister enjoying such a cheap gift. Well, that's fucked up. Enjoy the CG, gamers. Enjoy it. I need to do that more
お
often.
兄どう似
It helps with grabbing the screenshot for the thumbnail too.
全然。
合うあそうお兄のバーカ
I gave her a present, right? So why was she treating me like this? What kind of little sister calls her brother a jerk? Where did she learn to do that? Go play 100H games and learn how to behave properly. What a line. What an incredible line. She was smiling too. I was really getting angry.
これ気に入っちゃったからもう返さないもんねっていうかお兄からプレゼントもらうなんて初めてのような気がするしょうがないから大事にしてあげるよ
Whatever. Nobody asked you to. I didn't even buy it for you.
もう用は済んだんだから帰れ。僕は暇じゃないんだ。邪魔するな。
What are we busy with? I'm not really sure.
うん
Suddenly she looked upset.
そんな言い方しなくてもいいじゃんそれにみかんまだ食べてないしお茶もまだ出してもらってないよ
おめえに飲ませるお茶はね。
うっかー
She glared at me, shoulders heaving with rage. Eventually her eyes started to tear up.
わかったよそんなに邪魔なら帰る
ああ、さっさと頼む。
お兄のバカお兄なんてみかんの皮で目つぶし食らって失明しちゃ
Jesus.
えあとバングルは返さないかんねバカ
I hope to one day be called a baka. I mean, what? Her high-pitched yell echoed through the room as she grabbed her bag and flew out the door with incredible speed. At last, the storm was finally over. Every time I talked to Nanami, I felt exhausted. Why did she keep coming when she knew how much I didn't like it? Read the room. Well, now what's the plan? I guess we're gonna go check out something else. What's this shit?
ファーストメルトは期待以上の結果に終わりました。GE レートの上昇率は当初の予測からわずかな誤差があった程度です。
バイオリズムコントロールも順調なのかね。
渋谷の GE レートは他のエリアと比べて高い値を持っていると同時に安定性についても特筆したものがあります。
それゆえに意図的に操作しやすいということか。そして渋谷にいる人々のバイオリズムを急激に引き上げることもまた。
実験結果についてはレポートをご参照ください。納得していただける成果を上げております。
貴様が成果を出すのは当然だ。そのために高い金と多くの人材を提供しているのだからな。
実効性については理解しているよ。この数ヶ月だけでも我が会の信者が数倍に膨れ上がっているからね。
それではプロジェクトノアは次の段階へと進ませます。
He said the thing.
よろしいですね。
コードサンプルの件はどうするのだ。すでに3人分は確保したとはいえ目標数値には達しておらんではないか。
いかにも。数値達成のためには最低でも5人分はなければ厳しい。
サンプル保持者は集まりつつあります。あとは採取するのみ。
ならばその件は任せる。
信仰の救いあれ。くれぐれも慎重にことを進めるように。
はい、心得ております。
Well, I have no idea what all that was about. Not even the slightest clue, to be totally honest with you guys. But we've seen Nozomi before. Like, I think at the hospital.
そろそろ寝るか。
I bit back a yawn and looked over at my PC's block. It was showing 5 a.m. I'd spent the whole night grinding an ESO and hadn't gotten the rare item I wanted. 8 hours of work and nothing. Well, it happened a lot. I looked over to the side of my computer desk. The D sword I'd bought yesterday was still there. It was close enough that I could grab it at any time. It hadn't glowed at all, for what it was worth. I was hoping that at some point it would transform into an awesome weapon like the one that Senna had. On the monitor, Grimm's avatar had just leveled up. My Night Heart was at max level, so he wouldn't level up again. As I rubbed my tired eyes, I wondered if it was time to make a third character after Lizelot. I found myself thinking about experience points. They were something you saw a lot in video games, but the way I saw it, there were experience points in the real world too. When I'd started ESO, I'd been a completely clueless newbie. But now I was Basilard's famous lightning-fast Nightheart, the game's ultimate warrior. So for instance, was it possible that some of the person inside me's experience points had been reset somehow? Maybe that's why I'd forgotten things that I should have known. Maybe that's where the weird inconsistencies in my memories had come from. Like with Shogun, or the demon girl. Before I'd lost my experience points, I, that is the person inside me, had used the nickname Shogun in chat. Maybe the demon girl Rimi had been a big part of my life too, and I wasn't a friendless otaku. Maybe that was going too far. But maybe before, I'd had some kind of incredible power that would have let me fight the demon girl. I wondered if I was the only person who could come up with an idea like this. Not that it really seemed that strange to me. Humans could only ever judge things by standards they created for themselves. Did that mean it was possible that I, and not just me, but everybody else in the world, was wrong about everything? Now we're getting really philosophical here. When I was little, I'd gone to the dentist, and they'd said to me, "You did a great job not crying when it hurt so much." Back then, I'd felt kind of proud for enduring the pain, like I'd done something special. But looking back, they were probably judging how much pain I was in by looking at how bad the cavity was. But maybe the same level of pain was really bad for some people, and not much for others. Maybe the way people felt things or sensed things was totally different. Take giving birth, for instance. I'd seen a lot of people online, for instance, saying that women could handle the pain, but men couldn't. Or what about marathon runners? Maybe what made them special wasn't their stamina, but the way they could endure pain. Or maybe take S&M, people who enjoyed receiving pain, and people who enjoyed giving it. Maybe everybody had different ways of experiencing their senses and different levels that they could endure. Maybe the toothaches and headaches that I sometimes had to put up with were a level of pain beyond what an ordinary person could handle. And if I could pass that pain to them somehow, they'd die on the spot from shock. All this speculation left me with the selfish delusion that I was somehow special.
特殊な人間か。っていうか、何を大げさな。
I denied it, but I'm sure it was a delusion everybody shared. Every man wants to be the strongest in the world. Everybody wants to think that they're special, chosen. They want to believe a dramatic future filled with adventure is waiting for them, like on TV or in the movies. The desire to be a hero, I guess you could call it. It was childish, really. Of course, I had the same desire. Maybe it was my destiny in life to defeat the demon girl. Of course, if someone actually told me to do it, I'd have several conditions. I'd need cheat codes, obviously, like God mode for one thing, or invincibility. I didn't want to be scared or get hurt. If I couldn't have that, in other words, if I had to do it right now, I would absolutely refuse. Which meant that if the person inside me's experience points had been reset, I might be at a big disadvantage. This is a really weird thought process here. I don't know how to feel about this one. I was almost late today. Maybe staying up till dawn to play games before a school day was a mistake. I had to run to make it in time. When I arrived outside my classroom, I paused to catch my breath. I didn't want to do anything to attract attention from my classmates. Being late was a potentially fatal mistake. If any Dokuns took an interest in me, my life was over. I slowly walked into the classroom. My head was pointed toward the ground, and I avoided looking at anyone. Of course, I didn't give anyone a cheery good morning. I tried to make myself as invisible as possible as I headed for my seat. That was how I always did things. But I guess we're okay. Like usual, I reached my seat without any issues and sat down. I quickly put my head down on my desk. Now I'd be safe for the rest of homeroom, or so I thought, until I was lightly tapped on the back.
よ、タク。今週は3回も学校来てんじゃねえか。真面目だな。
Misumi again. I sighed, but it wouldn't be right to ignore him. I began to raise my head and stopped. Was this Misumi? Really Misumi? 2 days ago I called him like the demon girl had told me to, but something had been very wrong. He'd acted like the demon girl was in our class. That was impossible. Maybe the demon girl had brainwashed him, or maybe he'd become someone else entirely.
おい、どうした？早くも爆睡モードか？
A loud electronic noise echoed through the classroom. I felt a slight vibration near my chest. It was my phone. Damn it, why now of all times? What kind of idiot would call me at a time like this? And why was it playing the ringtone when I'd set it to vibrate? Maybe I messed up the settings.
お、鳴ってるぞ、タク。
I know that. Should I answer now? But if I did, Misumi would know that I wasn't asleep, and I didn't like answering the phone anyway. If I didn't answer, though, it would annoy the rest of the class. Having my phone's ringtone drown out the rest of the classroom was bad, and I needed to stay invisible. This was really bad.
おーい、出ないのか？マジで寝てる？
But now I'd missed my chance. I couldn't move. Suddenly, the sound and vibration stopped. It must have gone to voicemail. I let out a sigh of relief, being careful not to let Misumi hear me. I was glad I'd learned how to set up voicemail.
なあ、タク。相手は誰だ？まさか女か？この前一緒に帰ったあのメガネの子だろ。そうなんだろ？
Ah, shut up. I'm already attracting too much attention because of the phone call. Please just leave me alone. Was Misumi always this annoying? He was always too friendly, but he hadn't always been this annoying, right?
やめなよ。
Uh-oh. That voice. It was coming from right next to Misumi.
そっとしておいてあげたら、大臣。なんだか疲れてるみたいだし。
She was in this classroom, acting like she belonged here.
どうせゲームのやりすぎだろ。お前、タクに甘すぎるぜ。
だって大臣は女の敵だし、そういう人には優しくしません。
She was talking like she belonged here. She was fitting in like she belonged here. I was too scared to look up. I didn't want to admit that girl was there.
ま、別にお前に優しくしてもらわなくても、俺には優しくしてくれる女はたくさんいるんだよ。
だから、そういう発言が良くないんだってば。彼女さんが聞いたら泣くよ。今の大臣の彼女が誰だかわかんないけど。ほら、チャイム鳴った。先生来るよ。
Had the demon girl really always been my classmate? No, that was impossible. She wasn't here 2 days ago. Misumi was the only one who talked to me that day, and I hadn't come yesterday. And now she was here today. How had she wormed her way in? As the homeroom chime rang, everybody headed back to their seats. I fearfully looked up, trying to see as much as I could without moving my head. I wanted that voice to be a hallucination, and for that to happen, I needed to prove that she wasn't in this room. I didn't see her. I didn't see the girl. Maybe it was a hallucination? My seat was in the 5th row. There were 9 rows in all. She wasn't in the seats in front of me. Did that mean she was behind me? But I didn't look back. I couldn't do something that would attract so much attention. Damn it, this was so frustrating. Was she in the room or wasn't she? I didn't feel the prickling on my neck. Nobody was looking at me and I couldn't sense anybody's gaze. Was she here? Was she not here? Which? I stared down at my desk, trying to see if I could sense her somehow. Then I heard the sound of the teacher coming into the room. I forgot their name. It was Tsukaji or Tsukata or something, I think. It was the physical education teacher, and he was a huge meathead. But he didn't yell or do any physical punishment either. If anything, he was the kind of teacher who could take a joke. There was a mild murmur of surprise going up and down the classroom, but I was too busy thinking about the demon girl to worry about it. How the hell was I supposed to sense anybody? This wasn't a manga, was I just stupid?
今日から転校生が入ることになった。
Hey, yo. The teacher spoke in a whisper, so that's what the fuss was about.
ほら、折原、みんなに挨拶しろ。
I couldn't hear the transfer student's voice. Was she really here? I took a quick glance at the front of the room. Oh. Finally, the lolly character appears. Sure enough, there was a girl there. No delusion this time. Let's get straight to the point. She was really tiny. She might have been smaller than Nanami. She looked kind of weak and timid, in a moe sort of way. She was pretty cute for a 3D girl. Maybe for some reason, there were tears in her eyes and she was looking down. The class started to murmur louder as it became clear that the transfer student wasn't going to say a word. The teacher gave her a reassuring pat on the shoulder. I think I remember this character. Yeah. Without saying anything, I'm pretty sure this is one of the characters that they've got something going on, and that something going on is just really fucking annoying.
どうやら折原は緊張しているようだな。よし、挨拶はいい。みんな、この子は折原梢だ。仲良くしてやってくれ。折原、席は一番後ろだ。席についていいぞ。
The transfer student bowed silently and started to walk toward me. Her seat would be 4 rows behind me. I thought about pretending to follow her with my eyes as she walked, so I could look back and see who was there. But if I did, I'd stand out a lot. Some dokyun might see me and say, "Don't stare at the transfer student just because she's cute," and then they try to beat me up. What should I do, turn around or wait until homeroom ended? My head drooped as I squeezed my fists tightly. It was no good. I didn't have the courage. If I turned around and saw the girl...
この人、似てる。
Huh? I could hear her speak. The transfer student passed by me. The next thing I knew, I was looking up. What the fuck is that? Holy shit! Why are you holding that? Jesus. Oh my god, I'm sorry. That shit kind of just surprised me. Alright. The transfer student stopped for just a single moment as she walked by my desk. But she didn't look toward me. She was holding what looked like a giant iron plate. And now she wasn't. Huh. I blinked and it was gone. What was that? Was I seeing things?
同じクラスでよかった。
She quickly passed by my desk. Was she talking to me? Why was she suddenly talking to me? Like me, I'm glad we're in the same class. Had we even met before? No, I didn't remember her face at all. There was nothing in my past involving a long-forgotten childhood friend either. Nothing out of an H game. Maybe I was finally starting to get popular? Or was the transfer student with the demon girl? If so, the net was closing in even tighter. It would get harder and harder to run away. There's a lot of strange happenings going on now. Not like there hadn't been. Okay, we'll end it here. Yeah, there definitely are some strange happenings. But more so, like, everything is strangely happening, like, all at once. Like, there's, like, a bit of a... I don't know what you want to call it. Like, a transition of sorts. You know, all of a sudden, Rimi is, like, thrown herself into this story. Basically, fully integrated. No worries at all, you know, except from our perspective. Because well, she quite literally has not been here at all until now. And with that, now a transfer student. We've got these D swords popping up. I don't know. There seems to be a lot going on all at once, and it's just very strange, which fits the bill with everything else in this game so far. Well, I think I know exactly who this character is and what their deal is to an extent. So that sucks. Hopefully the visual novel does a lot better than the anime did. So far, everything in the visual novel is done a lot better than the anime. But you guys will see exactly what I mean as we continue along. I'm sure it'll explain shortly. I just don't want to spoil it, if it even counts as a spoiler. Thank you all for watching this episode. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy.